like a hard cut. Like I'm hitting boost cut or something. Alright guys, I'm starting to wonder if my wideband is reading incorrectly or something. Because I just bumped like 15% of fuel out of everything. And believe it or not, it is doing better. Alright guys, as I pound away at this thing, I think I am getting closer. I was doing some driving around and my boost is very high now. So the other thing I'd like to investigate is the wastegate, and you can see my buddy Deanna welded this on a long time ago and it's still mint. Everything's still good. And I took apart the wastegate and I don't have any issues at all. The diaphragm is mint. Everything looks good in here. I took apart the stem. They have a removable stem now that you can put bolts into. Sorry about that. This is the removable stem. It's hot as fuck. And my fire ring is good, and the bottom of the valve looks good, and everything is still mobile. It has like a fairly light spring in it. So what I might do is just spring it really light. I mean, I thought this was light enough. We'll spring it really light and see what happens. Make sure my vacuum source and everything is hooked up right. I'm going to put it back together and just Loctite everything. Nothing was loose, but I'm going to Loctite everything just for fun and put it back on and see what my boost hits. Maybe I have some sort of other issue. I am really not certain. Chasing problems, nothing but issues so far, so I'll keep messing around and we'll see where I'm at, and messing with my tune-up, messing with everything physically, messing with everything mentally. we will continue on and see how it goes. I'll fuck with this quick and I'll get back to you. Alright guys, quick update here. Got the wastegate apart, put it all back together. I put a lighter spring in it. I have a box of fucking springs in here, and this is what that regulator is so damn good for right here. Is testing stuff like this. Can you see the a little bit of air leaking past the seal? What are we at? 3 pounds. And what you test here is, usually, here's the thing, if we add a bunch of air, now the wastegate's fully open at around 7 pounds. Yeah, close to 10. It's fully open. Here's the thing. There's back pressure pushing against this. So, as you can see right here, it's cracking at around 5 or 6, and then it's to a point where I like to call it's buoyant, like it'll float on its own. So back pressure is going to push against this. So this thing should be fairly low, like 5-6 pounds. So I basically lowered it. Look at this regulator. You have to crank it. 10, 15. That's how many turns it takes. Really, really nice low resolution regulator. Testing map sensors and shit. So, that should be fairly low. So if it's still high, what the fuck is going on, right guys? Don't forget your fire ring. I'll reinstall this shit and take it out and see what happens. Now this thing is such a light spring, I'll just shove it on here. Hopefully I don't have any problems. Just push it on. Yeah, it'll push. Here's the thing, when you spring these bitches really high, you can use that air to lift the valve, because you want a little bit of seat pressure here to make sure it's sealing. So this thing's light enough that I can just, yeah, make sure that's pointed in a good direction. Not melting anything. Put the bolt in it. Put the nut on it. Don't drop them into the fucking subframe. Turbo's hot. Turbo's still hot. What's kind of nice about it being so brutally cold right now is everything cools off pretty well. If it was summer, I'd just fucking wait till tomorrow to do this shit, or put my leaf blower on it for like 2 hours and shit. Should have got my Sidewinder. All right, reinstalled. This shit away. Unplug my air line because it leaks. Okay, and then we leave everything a mess, and we can go for a drive and see how it is. And because I was hitting my boost cut, fucking boost cut. What's going on with that? Anyway, never hit it before, never had any issues, so let's go see. Okay, let's go over the circus show that has been the last couple days. I recorded a little bit today, and I have the footage, and it's on here, and I'll show you. Let's get this guy back a little bit farther so we can see everything. Oh yeah, okay, better. Basically, I had a bunch of issues. Some were self-inflicted. Other ones were strange. More were self-inflicted, and then just by process of scrambling to try to figure out what the hell I did wrong, I screwed up some other things too. Anyway, this is my first swing at Holly from I've had people bring them to me running, and we tweaked them, just fuel and ignition, and we were done on the dyno in like 3 pulls. Because the car was pretty much there. They just wanted to confirm what made the best power and safely. So it's funny, basically what it boiled down to was my O2 sensor was incorrect, which sounds retarded, but I very easily screwed it up. Out of the box, they give you an O2 sensor, and in the base tune that I had, it said NTK sensor, and I was like, you know, I would take this thing out and I would roll into it, and I have uploaded clips of it breaking up very badly, and the air fuel would look okay, but I'm like, man, it's breaking up like it has like 1,000% too much fuel in it. There's totally breakup, like hard breakup. Blah, you could hear it. And I mean, this has been pestering me, and I was fucking around with it, and it was making me mad. I was disconnecting shit, trying stuff, swapping sensors, checking vacuum leaks, doing all sorts of shit. And I had it out today, and it was good and bad again. And I started looking at my data logs, and I saw that I would roll up into boost, and it would throw 40%. I gave it 40%, and it would throw the entire 40% at it and break up. And if I would pull 40% of fuel out and roll into it, it would be clean, but it would show me a 13 something air fuel. So I messed around with it for a little. I got pissed off. I put my AEM wideband in, and my air fuels on startup and drive and everything were completely like a disaster. It was 10-0 everywhere. It was undrivable. Didn't want to idle. Didn't want to start. Didn't want to stay running. I had to 2-foot it everywhere. It would break up the minute I would try to go into boost. It was just awful. It was really bad. So I started researching, like, did I get the wrong wideband, or is it set up wrong, or it looks like a Bosch or whatever, or NTK, and it looks like it's already calibrated. It doesn't have like a button to do free air. So I started looking through everything, and I noticed in the Holly instructions it says choose NTK or Bosch, whichever one you bought. And I'm like, well, I didn't buy one specifically. It came with my kit, so what the fuck do I have? And I'm looking through everything, and I can't find out what sensor I have. So I didn't want to change anything, so I look on the website and I see that the NTK sensor is $500. It's like $400 or $500. And then the Bosch is like $150. So I just presumed that they sent me the cheaper one, and I changed it to Bosch, changed a couple other settings, reset the fuel table, fired it, and it ran beautifully. And I took it right out and rolled into it a few times, and it was finally mint. Like I would roll into the pedal, and instead of seeing a 13.0 and hearing it break up, it would show an 11.5 dead on the nose and trim accordingly, and it was adding like 18%. Everything was working correctly, finally. And I was like, finally. It was the fucking O2 sensor for like 2-3 days now that's fucking me over. I'm dumbass. And then I noticed my boost was creeping. Like, it was going right up into my boost cut. And I'm like, what the fuck is up with that? So this explains something maybe that the dyno, why my boost was all over the place on the dyno, is I had, let me take you over here for the fucking grand tour. I had a line, guys, going from right about there on the throttle body. I had a hose going from here, because I felt like I didn't need to plug this. I had a long ass 3/8 hose, so I went down under the turbo, like all the way under here in a nice loop, and then it went into a T fitting next to the boost controller and the wastegate here. So what I did was I had the T here, so I had the bottom going to the bottom, and then the other part of the T was going through the boost controller and referencing stuff to the top. Somewhere on the T fitting or this hose is where it was leaking, because I would roll into this thing and it would make 18 pounds, hit the boost cut immediately, and it never did that before, just like on the dyno. You know, that's new, so what the hell's going on? So we removed it completely. I took the wastegate apart, which is in the other part of this video. I completely disassembled the wastegate for suspect to creep, and it was mint. So what I also did is I put a spring in, like the lightest fucking spring I could find. And I bench tested it, and you'll see it on the video. It's like 4 or 5 pounds, and that's exactly what this makes. 4 pounds of boost. And it's funny to say that this truck still feels like an animal on 4 pounds of boost. So anyway, yeah, before I put the camera away, we drilled a hole into the compressor housing, drilled it, tapped it, put an 1/8 inch thing on it. It's going straight to the wastegate right now. That's it. No filler. So that's just there for now. It's running wastegate. I'm fine with that for now till we get stuff sorted out. I'll probably just put a 10-pound spring in it so I can go to 20, you know, call it a day. Or it's kind of nice having it go as low as 4 pounds. This thing, I wrote on my Facebook earlier, this thing on 10 pounds of boost feels like it'll go 10s. It feels like it's making so much power on 4 pounds of boost that it'll go 10s. And I think I'm going to dyno it on 4 pounds just for a frame of reference, because we've never really dynoed stuff, like a big setup like this on that low a boost. So I think I might just leave it on 4 pounds and then just take my air regulator and just add pressure until we get back to 13 or 14. And that was like 700 to 750 horsepower to the tire at 13, 14 pounds. And ethanol content sensor is wired and working. I had a snafu with my fans. The Holley is totally different from Megasquirt, where once you set something up, you have to go into a pin diagram and you drag and drop the pins for where you want them to work. And I set up the fan, and this thing kept getting hot, and I was manually turning on my high. Remember I said I like the manual switch just in case shit happens, because shit like this happens. I was manually turning on the high, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I read more about the fan shit, and even though I had it enabled, turned on, everything tested good, I had to drag and drop it to the correct pin out. So I tested that finally, that the pin out is working. I have it on the right pin assignment in the computer. The boost creep is fixed. The ethanol content sensor seems like it's working. I got nervous the other day when it was driving like total shit that I was running out of gas, so I stopped and just filled up. I just filled it to see how empty it was, and I got about 15 gallons of 93. And now that the content sensor is hooked up, I have like 27% ethanol, so not much at all, like almost pump gas. So now that I've been driving around and it's been totally rich, like all fucked up, I drained the oil because the oil smells like straight gasoline because of how much fucking oil or how much gas it's been pumping. So it seems like my rings are good. It still seems powerful, but it's a little fucked up. So I dumped the oil quick, and my mail time guys got me a bunch of oil. I have some oil, so just for fun, this guy sent me semi-synthetic or whatever it is over here. I'm gonna put this in the motor. Oh, it actually is Valvoline Max Life synthetic blend for engines over 75,000 miles. What if you have 268,000 miles? So we're gonna put this in before I forget. We're gonna fill her up on this. And then, since I drove so much, I'm assuming when it was screwed up that it used quite a bit of gas because it was all funny. Is this gonna melt my funnel? Nah, it's not that hot. So, we'll put synthetic oil in this to make the dyno numbers, guys. And then I'm gonna do low boost and see what it does. And then I'd like to get the nitrous kit on it and wired in to the ECU also for my big attempt. So if I need to squeeze, I can squeeze. What is in here? 5 quarts? Okay. We'll put all this in and then check. All 5 quarts. So, yeah, some self-inflicted issues. Everyone said my wastegate was bad, so I pulled my wastegate off for fun. The wastegate's still totally fine. I mean, I can make 4 pounds of boost if I want to. That is incredible. It's just a 44 millimeter gate on a 6-liter engine on an S480, right in the turbine housing. It seems like it would be too small, but it's just in a good spot. 4 pounds. I can dial it down to. That's insane. So I kind of want to dyno it on 4 pounds, and then just, like I said, turn it up incrementally with the, instead of trying to rely on the boost controller, because man, I struggled with everything else. I think I'm going to struggle with the boost control strategy, so I'd rather just manually bump it with the air on the top until I get what I want and see if I make the power I want problem free. That's the big one. Can I make the power I want problem free? I don't know about that. So, all right, there's 5 quarts down the drain being the motor. Yep, I want to wire the boost and nitrous outputs and struggle with that for a couple days. Where am I at on here? Yeah, it just needs like another quart, 5, 6. So we'll do a little bit more. So I got this synthetic lightweight bullshit in here. I hope I make what I want to make with this decadent oil. I appreciate it. I would never buy this. Let's dump that in and check out where we are. Looks full. Hopefully it sinks down into the head a little bit more. I like to put a quart or a half a quart extra in there. Yeah, it's like dead on. I'll check it like 3-4 more times because I'm OCD about this, making sure there's enough oil in the motor. Yeah, it's slightly overfilled. Yeah, it's slightly over already. So, figure I'll just leave it go. Check it in a day or two. Grab this funnel out of here. But yeah, so I had a bunch of issues which I will obviously own up to. I knew I would have problems going from Megasport systems for so long, going to a totally separate system from scratch. And what's cool is the ethanol content sensor is working and some of that other stuff, and now finally it starts and runs and drives. That makes me happy, obviously. Actually, I should fire it for a second or two to fill the oil filter and then shut it off. Check it again. Let's see how she fires. I've been messing with it, obviously. All right, closed loop at idle is a little bit, you can hear it. It goes 20, like 11, 20, 11. So I gotta slow it down around idle, or work on some other shit there too. Work in progress. Once it's running, hot, idling, everything else, it's very smooth. It has a nice idle. Well, very smooth. It's like fucking super chop. All right. Where are we at on here? Yep, it's low. Always good to fill that filter. Check it out. Anyway, yeah, it's finally to a point where I can drive it somewhere and not be fucking scared. Well, it's going to take a couple days, I think, of driving it around to trust it at this point, because it's given me so much hell, even though it was my fault. That trust isn't there. And that pours out nice. There should be another quart. The 3 quarts left. I could do an oil change in my Kia. 3-quart monster. Everything else seems good. My coolant temp seems to be happy. I zip tied my map sensor down so it can't get anywhere near the turbo this time. That's the same map sensor. Yeah, slightly overfilled. Beautiful. That's what I like to see. So, I'll take this thing out. Man, my one wheel over here, the wheel is bent so bad. You can see it on the dyno at low speed. It's just like whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, it clears up when you're pounding it. At least you think it does, because everything else is chaos. But I got to get that wheel straightened out. I think I'm going to drop off the radial and the wheel and everything and have someone fix it, because it doesn't cost that much to get a steel wheel fixed, straightened and whatever. And it's all I got, and the race tires are already on it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for a drive. Just put fresh oil in so it doesn't have fucking gas completely filling it. And then we're going to fill up, see how much it takes to fill up, see how much I used, and see what my content goes up to, because I would like to, in the next week, start getting back on, make a low boost pull. I have cars to tune tomorrow, so I don't think I'm going to break it after that. So I'm going to tune some cars, and then get this thing on the roller, make some low boost hits, and just keep fucking around, and then I'll probably drain the gas out of it to get the content up again, 70 or so, and then make dyno pulls again. And by then, I would like to have the nitrous kit on it, so if we need to, I can just turn it on in the ECU and just psh. I'll probably put a 100 shot on it. If I make 880, I'll turn the boost up and spray it. So we'll see what happens there. I got to decide what I want to do with the kit, because I don't want to hit off of what I have existing and take away fuel from the whole fuel system. So I'm going to do a standalone fuel cell. We do that a lot with the big nitrous kits. So I have to figure out where I want to put the fuel cell, or tap off the tank and put an additional pump in, or I got to figure out what I want to do with that. So all of that combined, and make some low boost pulls and make sure it makes good power on low boost. Also, since now it seems to be running and everything, I want to get an alignment on my front end and get the fresh front tires put on, because these are almost on the cords on the inside. So anyway, I hope that is a nice cumulative update, and I'll go get some ethanol for this thing, and keep at it and start getting my nitrous outputs and start driving it. It just dropped again to like 20 degrees. It's miserable outside, but start driving it more often. Try to drive it once a day and get the startup and everything else going good. And it seems like the 210s are working with the Holly just fine. That's another good thing. I have them on high impedance. You can actually switch the driver. So I have it on highs and they're working fine. So all of that is the update. Those were the issues I was having. More on weird stuff with reference leak, blah, 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 just weird shit. So gotta love cars sometimes. Equally, disappointing and make you feel good, and then completely disappointed, and then waste all your time, and then make you feel like the time was worth it, maybe? And then you get so pissed off you throw it in the trash. Maybe that's just me, but that's it for now. Windshield is shot. My camera is actually good. My windshield is that bad. And we are cruising and going to get some ethanol and see what my percentage goes up to, but everything's doing good except for my rear view fucking vibrating because my rear wheel is bent so damn bad. And turbo and everything seems good. Everything seems good. We just roll into it a little bit in overdrive and lock up. Nice and whistly. 75 at 2400. Not bad, not bad. Well, I got some E. Now I got 51%. And everything is running good, so at least the content sensor in this system works pretty good. Other than, again, my wheel is totally out of balance and my screen is, my windshield is shot. Everything's doing pretty good. And since I did that modification from Cameron, that pump thing where I was having, it was hitting reverse and shit too hard, my trans temps are way cooler, is what he said. Also, it affects the pump circuit, so, and the cooler circuit, so that's nice. Definitely a nice thing to find out. Cops are out, hanging out on the side of the highway, just chilling.